What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Doing our two-part Thursday deal. We do a quick recruiting segment to start at 9 at the normal time. Take a break while I interview the head coach of Miami Baseball, JD Arteaga. Then we come back, finish the show, longer show, and then at the end, you get the interview with Coach Arteaga. So loving these Thursdays, loving this calendar, man. I was so bummed about football ending, and then right there's no break. We go right into a great basketball season, which we've been following all year, of course, on this show, and now baseball heating up, man. Plus recruiting, hot and heavy, so it never stops. Appreciate everybody joining us here. Pete, hop in.
D, hello again. Still didn't post to Twitter, man. I don't know what's going on with that, so I'm just gonna tweet out. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know what's happening there.
We'll figure it out. We'll do some work here in between shows, trying to get this thing sorted. But again, appreciate everybody joining us on the show. So, Pete, let's hop into it, man, with the defensive line, particularly the defensive ends. I thought last year's team, I thought they had the best offensive line in the country. Malachi Toney was great. The veterans on offense, outstanding. Of course, Mark Fletcher running the ball. Defensive tackles were great. Defensive back. I mean, we can go through all the things that made this a championship team. But to me, if you ask me the number one reason why Miami played in the national championship this year is because they had two first-round defensive ends who could completely destroy the run and also dominate against the pass and play nonstop with incredible motors. And that was Ruben Bain and Miamis Mesidor. I don't think you just replace those guys because they're just too special. Best defensive end tandem we ever had at Miami, period. I think that question's been answered. So you don't just replace them. But I do think that there's a large amount of talent at this position, both from the portal and from recruiting.
Yeah, you mentioned how good they were against the run. I think that's probably going to be the more difficult thing to replace, D. I feel really confident in the group of pass rushers that they have here, but that's stopping the run at that position. Sometimes it's like a maturity thing, and that comes with a lot of time. A guy like Hayden Lowe, we'll talk about him here in a second. Physically, he's got the tools, but he didn't play it all last year. So to expect him to have day one be anywhere near what these guys were is a lot to say. But I think if you take that group as a whole, and we'll get into it, the pass rushing might be a bit more dynamic. And I say that word dynamic because I didn't say better, but I think some of the looks they're going to be able to give with the body types and some of the speed and quicks that you'll have coming off the edge there will be a lot. Now, Bain and Mesidor are a lot more advanced probably than where some of these guys are right now, but Damon Wilson, 10 sacks in the SEC is no slouch.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Pete. I think you could see that sack production overall in the team increase next year, even as you lose two first-round players. Maybe I'm wrong, right? You look at the sack percentage, which is the stat I always go to. This is the percentage of the opposing team's dropbacks that result in sacks. Miami was 12th in the country overall at 8.71%. Obviously a very good number. They played the playoffs, so they played more high-level tackles than other teams. But I think really this was the best pass rusher in the country. You look at number one, Texas A&M. I mean, Miami played them, and Miami completely dominated that pass rush battle. Same thing, Ohio State's number 4. Miami played them, and it was a mismatch in terms of their rush versus our rush, our pass protection, and our rush against their pass protection. I think our offensive line had a lot to do with it, but I do think this was the best pass rush in the country. So to say it'll get better is a lot, but I think Mo Toure, we're talking about linebackers now, so we're getting a little bit out of it, but Mo Toure, Kamal Bonner, Chase Smith, those guys like to get in the backfield. I think the linebacker rush will help. And then at defensive end, which we're talking about today, Damon Wilson, that part of the game I'm not worried about. He can rush the passer. He's a 5-star player, 2 sacks against Alabama, super talented, a guy you've known since recruiting him as an agent. So I want to ask you about him in a second. But just the pass rush craft should improve under JT. And I think his ability to stop the run is going to be a big, not question mark, but point of emphasis as he becomes hopefully another first-round prospect.
Yeah, I think he's a top 15 sort of guy. Looking at the early kind of projection on him, and he probably could have gone this year and still been in that mix to be a first round pick because of how the position's valued. I think he saw what a Ruben Bain and a Miamis Mesidor did. He sees that window open up, and I've said this before. D guys are arrogant in a good way a lot of times with their abilities. Damon Wilson, as a 5-star who's been at Georgia, who's put up the numbers that he put up last year at Missouri, probably looks at Ruben Bain and has a lot of respect for him. I don't want to misconstrue anything here, but he says, man, look what those guys are doing. Let me get into that system. Let me get that coaching. Let me get under a Hall of Famer in Jason Taylor's under his tutelage and pick up some of those things. And I said this about the Damon Wilson recruitment, D. It goes both ways because from what I heard, JT was in that film room with Damon Wilson for hours. I mean, just about more than he's ever done for a prospect, right? A guy who's not in his room just yet. Just really breaking things down. How can we take your game to the next level? So it goes both ways there, right? Miami thinks very highly of him. Obviously, he's getting paid well and all that. But I think a guy like him looks at it and says, I have just as much, if not more talent than those two guys. Whether the production is what it was, I don't know, but he just did it. He just did it in the SEC, right? So I think his confidence is sky high, and you equip him with everything we're talking about here. And by the way, he will, I'm sure, be the focal point for a lot of teams, but you've got a lot of other dudes you have to worry about. We didn't even mention Marquise Lightfoot, and we'll go into each of these guys now in detail, but just the overview of things, that's what gets me excited about this room.
No doubt about it. Just kind of going back to your point, because I think it's a great one, is the fact that Miami has superstar players again, which other teams had for a while. Miami used to have the most. Now they are finally back to having superstar players. Cam Ward, Malachi Toney, Ruben Bain, just to name a few. No great player, to your point, thinks that any other player is better than them. So when they see players as stars who are doing all the things they want to do, they don't think that guy's better than me. They think I can do that. And what better way to do that than to be in the same situation as those guys who had already done it, right? So logically, if you think you're just as good as all these guys and they're doing what you want to do, you go where they're at, because then it's up to you. And they all have confidence in their own abilities. So the rise of these star players, and those three I put at the top of the list, Cam Ward, Malachi Toney, Ruben Bain, maybe Mark Fletcher as a big back fits in that category as well, is going to allow us to really, really ramp up our recruiting and our portal acquisition, especially for a guy like Damon Wilson, who would have been the second returning sack leader in the SEC behind Colin Simmons of Texas had he stayed at Missouri. So this is a highly productive player with NFL in his mind.
Yeah, and as Aaron Frazier says, he's a guy that he's from Venice, right? Yeah. Venice is where he went to high school. I talked to him, to his dad, really, when the NIL stuff was just becoming a thing, right? And I could tell at that stage, I mean, he was already a big-time recruit. He had everyone after him. He was a 5-star. But it was a very, very professionally driven sort of guy, right? And you can tell that, I mean, the weight room stuff was always freakish with him.
His dad's a trainer, right?
Yeah, his dad was like a coach trainer. And I remember just like at that time, there was a guy in the office from Venice. Shout out to my boy Garrett. And he said he was showing me like videos that he had from the weight room. Like this wasn't stuff that was out on social media, and like it's translated. So I can only imagine you put that with some of the polish on his game now that I think he's going to add, and it's going to be pretty scary. I don't think there's any reason this guy can't be. We'll see where Bain and Mesidor end up getting drafted, right? there's varying opinions on how they translate, but it looks like both will be first rounders. But I think Wilson could end up. Here's my prediction, D. I think Wilson could end up being a higher draft pick than both of those guys.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if Bain's a top 5 pick right now. We'll see what happens here through this process. But why can't Wilson be in the same range? Legitimately. I mean, he already has a top 20 sort of projection for next year.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, I think Bain should be a top 10 pick. I think he's the second best player in the draft. So we'll see. I think it'll just depend on the team. I think, to me, if you compare him to David Bailey and Arvell Reese, what he does against the run and just being a physical presence, I think is more than what those guys bring to the table. Those guys are a little more one-dimensional. In Arvell Reese's case, you're not even sure he can rush the passer. You're projecting it, but it's not something that he had done with any consistency. So
Kevin Dennis makes a good point here. Wilson had a better sophomore year than Bain.
He did. Bain had a better freshman year. So, it's like I think
50-50 now. I just think some of the stuff that Wilson is going to be able to show with his length is what could take him over the top.
Yeah, I think the pass rush could be close or better for Wilson with these guys, just because Wilson's so good at it and he's going to be coached at such a high level. The run I'm a little worried about. He can improve there. I think it's probably one of his points of emphasis is to improve against the run. It wasn't great at Missouri, but he's a strong guy. He's physical. He's not soft in any way. So I could see that improving with technique and just with development here at the University of Miami. So I'm excited. I'm just most excited about the fact that, like you said, what you said, I've heard, is a serious guy. He's not here to goof off. And that's the type of mentality you need from your portal guys. You don't want your portal guys coming in here, hey, man, I'm going to be on Instagram partying in Miami, and this is going to be such a fun ride. I just jump on this gravy train. It's got to be people are coming in ready to work and improve themselves. And I think Wilson fits that bill. So very, very excited. Top 10 player in the portal. I think he was the number 3 defensive end on some of the services. To me, he was underrated. He was below guys that have had far less production. There were probably more projections. So I think this is a guy that's got but still more potential, but he's also proven as well.
Yep. And Chris Barnett says it here. He says, with the way our D-line looks, I don't think teams are going to be able to double him every play, which is what, Bain and Mesidor, that's why they started putting him on the same side there near the end of the season, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was tough for teams to deal with. And we got a lot of guys. We're going to be doing a lot of those same things, Pete. So you roll through the names. I know where you want to go with it because there are so many names you can choose from.
Let's go Marquise Lightfoot.
Let's go.
I'm sending you something in the private chat as well. I think this could help. So,
all right, let's see if we can get this thing broadcast here. Make sure everybody's seeing us. Let me share the stream so everybody can see it. But Pete, Marquise Lightfoot, Chicago, Illinois, 5-star player. Played a little bit as a freshman, got in that big fight on the sideline with Simeon Barrow. People thought he might be transferring or something might happen, right? That obviously didn't turn out that way. The guy ended up being a fixture of this team that went to the championship. Big in the Notre Dame game, really big throughout the year. Had spurts where his playing time dwindled a little. Had the horrible penalty against SMU, which I blame more on the refs than him. It was an aggressive penalty. But ultimately, this was a big part of our playoff run. A guy that, even in the championship game, was flashing big. You saw him destroy the running back, Kalen Black, for Indiana. Powerful for his size, 6'5", 220. I don't see him ever being too big of a guy. I think he's going to have to just maximize what he has.
Listen, I kept saying that last year, and there was a guy in the chat who was like, if you say one more time that Lightfoot can't put on weight, then, I don't know why you keep mentioning it, but it's like, you have to understand what he is and what are his real special tools. Because we got that question a lot last off season, D, is, hey, is he 245 yet? Is he 250 yet? That's not his body type. And if he ever gets there, then he's going to lose the special twitch that he has. So you gotta maximize. And by the way, he's not a soft player. He's a guy who plays with power. He's not going to be setting the edge in run support all that much. But I think you're gonna continue to see his game grow here now in an expanded role.
Yeah, and you see Kevin Dennis talking about when he jammed Jeremiah Smith against Ohio State lined up. By the way, that worked, Pete, posting the stream. So you guys can see us on the Twitter stream now. But Arvell Reese, to me, speaking of Ohio State, I don't say it's the comp as far as like what he's going to be. I have to look at that more. But just in terms of like how you might use him, I could see us using him like an Arvell Reese. More of a pass rusher maybe than Arvell Reese did in college. Maybe more like how he'll be using the pros. But you can line him up against receivers, jam. He's already done stuff like that. He can drop in zones. He's not like someone I love spying the quarterback. We used him in that way just because it's hard when you're 6'5" to kind of gear down and tackle in the open field. Like it's easy to juke guys out when they're that tall just because their hips are higher. It's harder for them to just make those plays. But that's a role he played in this defense. His speed's outstanding. I think the underrated thing with Lightfoot, his motor, his toughness, his physicality. That's why he played kickoff a little bit this year. And even as a high school recruit, he's on the kickoff team for his high school team, which you never see with these 5-star defensive ends. He's just a tough, physical, aggressive player that happens to be a little slender, but also happens to be 6'4", 6'5", with tremendous acceleration. Love Lightfoot. I think we're going to expand his role next season.
As a spy, too, there's a lot of plays that like didn't really show up on tape D where he maybe like chased the quarterback out of bounds. Right. And it's not going to be a sack, but if you have the ability to chase an athletic quarterback sideline to sideline like he does, I mean, it's a huge advantage. So it's not just the actual sacking of the quarterback, but in today's game, you got to keep these guys in front of you when they break contain.
No, and you think about the Notre Dame game. And I don't know if that was I think it was a straight pass rush. I don't know if he was spying in that game, in that play that I'm talking about, but early on, when Carr got outside the pocket, Lightfoot was so fast he had no chance to make positive yards or make something happen with his arm because he got beat to the spot by Lightfoot, who is faster than him at defensive end. So really, really exciting player. I'm a big fan, and I think he's going to have a big year. You want to see him in that 8 to 9 sack range at least this year. I don't want to put a number on it because you know how these things go. These players get fixated on these kind of numbers, but I think if he gets the opportunities that he should this year, he'll find a way to fall into 8 or 9 sacks.
Who do you want to go to next here, D? I picked Lightfoot.
All right, let's go with Hayden Lowe out of Los Angeles, California. 5-star player, was big time in spring. So in the spring game,
I can pull up his huddle since we
pull up his huddle
since he doesn't have any college stuff just yet.
Yeah, just take my word for it. The practices looked a lot like this huddle. So this guy is a huge defensive end. I mean, I don't know what his exact numbers are right now. Just seeing him in person, 6'4", 265, something like that. He is a big defensive end. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a D tackle. I think he will be a defensive end, but he's a spectacular talent, man. We saw him in spring. He was very, very physical, very physical. The 5-star, all that stuff, that went out the window. He was tough. He competed, has power, which is unusual for a defensive end of that age just because of his size. Can run.
Broad shoulders, man.
He just he looks the part. So just for some context, we do these Canes Connection interviews after spring. We're Canes Connection members. Sign up today, canesconnection.com/CIS. Canes Connection members get access to a private meet and greet interview session with the players, which we did right after the spring game. We did the first year, and who'd they give us? Cam Ward, Ruben Bain. This last year, one of the players that they provided, Canes Connection provided for interviews, was Hayden Lowe. So I think that tells you kind of where he stood in the pecking order in spring, that you have true freshmen doing these interviews. And I talked to somebody after the season, and they were like, look, man, if Lowe is healthy, I believe it was an upper body injury, nothing that's going to hurt him this year. But the word I got was, man, if this guy was healthy, he would have played a ton as a true freshman. So it's not like he would have redshirted anyways. This guy probably would have played Physically, I think he's ready to go. There will be a learning curve like there is with any of these guys, but this is a 5-star with size. I don't think the learning curve is going to be that much. I think this guy helps us right away and is a difference-making type player right away, but also one of the more productive sack artists in the country as a senior. So it's not just flashes and traits. This guy knows how to get the quarterback down to the ground. So I am a huge, huge fan of this guy. Smart guy. We talked to him too. I mean, this guy looked like it was like a job interview kind of guy. You know, you could tell he's polished. He knows what he's doing, and I think.
And I remember seeing him even in summer camp. I'm trying not to call it fall practice because it's not fall, but in camp before the season last year, before he got hurt, they were lining him up inside at times.
Yeah, him and Blunt are kind of the same size.
And I think Blunt's probably stronger. I mean, he's super strong too, but Blunt is so sturdy still. And I think this guy's got maybe a little bit better of that first step explosiveness.
More fluid, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, like than Blunt. I think Blunt is a D tackle all the way and a first round D tackle when he's all said and done. I think Hayden Lowe is defensive end. Bigger defensive end. So smaller D tackle for Blunt, bigger defensive tackle for Lowe. That's kind of how I see it. But these guys move around. It's not just going to be one spot. This isn't trading cards, right? These guys are going to move around and play different spots and do different things.
So
I think ultimately the size and the talent. If he doesn't start, he'll be one of the high snap guys on this rotation. He is a big time player and a big part of the plan.
Maybe like Blunt last year.
I think even more
probably.
Yeah, I think he'll play more than Blunt.
Yeah,
did this. I mean, Blunt this year will play a lot more than he did last year. But I'm saying Lowe, I think this year's impact will be. I'm not gonna say it's the same amount of production, but I can see the same amount of snaps as like a Ruben Bain as a freshman. Because this is really a redshirt freshman year for him. He's been in college for a year, even though he didn't play. He had the whole spring where he did play. So I think it's starter level snaps for Hayden Lowe this year, and I think star potential for him.
So are we talking about Blunt with this group or with the D tackles?
Let's save him for the D tackles. That's where I see him. I don't know if you disagree.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
So let's switch to a guy, Pete. I want you to start on this one. This one you've always talked about. Guy I also am quite fond of. I didn't expect him to get as big as he did his first year and play as much as he did, including Texas A&M. I mean, he played throughout the playoffs, but played some big-time late-game, high-leverage snaps against Texas A&M. And that's Herbert Scroggins III, also known as Third Scroggins, out of Savannah, Georgia, 4-star player, one of the more productive sack artists in the country as a senior in Savannah, and has translated that production to Miami. Put on weight. I think he's like 250 something now. He looks a lot bigger than I thought he'd be. 6'3", 250 in that range. Flexible, tough, extremely smart. You can't hear enough good things about this guy from inside the building.
Mario said it himself in the interview that we did with him the other day. I mean, he was very, very high on third. You know, with these coach interviews, the press conferences, a lot of times during spring and during camp, right? You have to take a lot of things with a grain of salt. But there was an interview. Heatherman had a press conference. This was a couple weeks before the season. And he went out of his way to really mention Third Scroggins. And this is, again, before the season even started. I don't know that at that point, D, he was necessarily on our radar to be getting the sort of snaps that he ended up getting. Because like what you said, we didn't know how big he was and things of that nature. And then by midway point of the year, Mesidor had gotten banged up. Right. What game was it? Stanford that he had a really nice it was either Stanford or Syracuse. I think it was Stanford that he really broke out, had some good snaps there. I don't know if it was a sack. It was either a big sack or a pressure that he had. And he just continued to get reps and continued to not make mistakes. It wasn't like every single time he was beating his man, but he was doing what he was supposed to do. The high motor. He was in on the last drive of the game against Texas A&M. And he just continued to, like I said, be one of the more consistent guys in the building. So is he a, more juiced up version of like a Trent Harris, better size on him? I don't know that we can't put him, I don't think, in the same category athletically as a Hayden Lowe. right? Just
No,
because
not
of his
as not as big
size.
either. Yeah,
But a guy who can beat someone with his quicks as well.
and technique, and maybe like a Mesidor. Like
Yeah.
over time, I could see that being an outcome for him. This guy, we said it, the production. Not all of these guys that are 4 or 5-star defensive ends are getting a lot of sacks in high school. You may assume that when you see that ranking, but a lot of these guys, it's more based on traits than their actual production. Sometimes it's both. Hayden Lowe was a 5-star. He was also extremely productive rushing the passer over there in Los Angeles. So he was a highly productive guy. This guy, Scroggins, was setting records in Georgia with how often he was getting to the quarterback. So I think that just natural feel translates. My big question with him was he wasn't like a 4-5 kind of runner.
Right.
He wasn't slow by any means. He ran fine, but he was not like this fastball off the edge.
Freakiest of the freak, yeah.
So he needed to gain some weight, and he did that. He was up to 250 plus. One thing that stuck out, I interviewed Miamis EDGE before the season for Storm Sessions. By the way, the best guy ever. But he was talking about how, because this was before the season started, so I noticed that he had lost weight. And I said, hey, man, you look light, And he said, well, I've been swimming and doing yoga and doing all these other things, which takes us some age to figure out. Mesidor, an older guy. He knows all the old guy tricks to stay in shape, which, stretching and swimming are pretty good ones. Obviously, that translated on the field for him. But he said the guy that he would drag to all these things was Herbert Scroggins III. So that shows to me a maturity from Scroggins to say, hey, listen, man, I'm an 18-year-old. I shouldn't be worried about stretching and swimming and all this stuff. A lot of these 18-year-olds, think about how we were at 18, eating McDonald's, just not really caring. But he adopted the mature approach of a Mesidor, who clearly that paid off for Mesidor and allowed him to go from day 3 borderline pick to consensus first rounder, one of the best defensive ends, if not the best defensive end in the country. So I think that maturity and the mentorship from Mesidor is going to go a long way with Scroggins.
Yep. Could be a big rank ascender here in spring, D.
By the way, Trent Toolbox Harris, now at Duke.
Yeah.
Was at Illinois. Now just is he the defensive ends coach? I'm assuming he got a promotion.
He was the outside linebackers coach. Let me see what his title is.
And by the way, go ahead.
I don't know. I haven't seen his title yet, but he was the outside linebackers coach last year. I love Trent, man. He was our client for a while, and I think he's obviously been doing a great job here. Might have to cool it on the Duke talk when it comes to him.
Yeah. But the guy, what blows me away with a guy like Harris, this guy played 19 games in the pros.
Yeah, he was with the Patriots for a bit. He was with the Dolphins as well. So he was a pro, man. He was a pro.
And people hear that, like 19 games, like they have no idea how hard it is to make
over
it.
Multiple years. Yeah, exactly. Grinding it week in, week out as a practice squad guy. You don't know if you're going to be called up because of an injury. You got to stay ready. It's a tough mental kind of place to be in. No, those practice squad guys are paid well now too. So it's still a job. He was a pro, but to deal with that career that he dealt with, I think is big time for his coaching career.
And I could see that comp too in terms of like Trent Harris was another guy out of high school, I believe he's from the Orlando area.
Winter Park. He was a good recruit. I mean, he was a low 4-star recruit.
They were recruited probably about the same range as far as their ranking. Harris was another really, really productive guy as far as sacks, which Scroggins was, which, it's not like in pros and in college he was getting 10, 12 sacks, but he did do that at high school at a high level, and he was always a productive player, just had instincts for the game. So I could see that with Scroggins, although I do think Scroggins further ahead at the same age, maybe a little bigger than Harris. I don't know if Harris ever got up to that 250 range. Maybe he did later, but certainly not as a true freshman. So I think Scroggins may just more size and upside in that way. But excited about what Scroggins brings to the table. One more guy I want to talk about before we move on to the younger players, Pete. Actually, let's talk two guys before we move on to the younger players. One, we don't talk about this guy enough. considering how much he played this year. That's Booker Pickett out of the Tampa area. So Booker Pickett, he's somebody that played real snaps. He played in the playoffs, if I recall. He played real
against Ohio State and on like a pivotal third down.
Yeah, so he's playing, which is going to be your first indicator of what you need to know. Redshirt freshman, so it's not like he's somebody who is, overage and you're wondering why hasn't he played more. I mean, I think his progression.
Redshirt sophomore now.
Redshirt sophomore now, but as a redshirt freshman, played in again the playoffs. So that to me speaks pretty strong about what he can do. He's got 2 sacks, 1 a year, but hasn't had the total amount of snaps to really get that number up. But he's a natural pass rusher. Again, another super productive player. His senior year was awesome. He kind of rose the ranks as a senior, and then he went to the Under Armour game, which was all the top players nationally, and he kind of dominated. He kind of dominated that game, and that's when his ranking really exploded. Ended up being a pretty high 4-star. Needs to continue to put on weight. He's listed at like 6'4", 210. Maybe, I don't know, I'd say maybe an inch shorter and a little bit heavier than that right now. But super athletic, natural pass rusher, plays hard. And I think if you talk about Marquise Lightfoot and all the things he can do as a versatile player, Booker Pickett and Lightfoot to me are pretty much, I don't want to say interchangeable, but they're just very, very similar players and they're the same age as well.
Yeah, and I think when people talk about him, it's almost like, hey, what's wrong with him? We don't see him playing all that much. To me, it was this last year at least. It was a total numbers game. You're not taking Bain or Mesidor off the field. You would slide one of those guys inside sometimes, but you're keeping those guys on the field. You got Lightfoot, as you said, was as effective as he was. You have Blunt rotating in there as well. So it was more of a numbers thing to me. I don't think it was like, well, he's not capable of doing it. It's just, man, the guys kind of in front of him here are really good. You need those guys on the field. And by the way, he's a situational player still. He is a pass rush guy, right, D? And I think we saw that with Lightfoot too, how he was used. So I just think Lightfoot was more the man in those situations this year. We'll see how the roles evolve this year.
Yeah, and so there's a comment from Romello Height. Well, by the way, what the heck is this? Pretty Pete? Am I wrong? Did Romello Height ever sign with Miami? I thought he's not. Do you know there's a Miami bio for him on the internet?
Really?
Yeah, this is totally hijacking this stream, but I was like looking for Romello Height's height weight because I was about to do a comp to Booker Pickett.
Dude, that is super weird.
You see that?
Dude, he never signed with Miami. What the heck is this?
We just broke the internet right here. Are we in a wrinkle in time? What do they call it? Metaverses or all this stuff the kids talk about?
Yeah, but this is crazy. It somehow must have been something.
3 inches too.
I think it's one of those things where they probably had it ready for signing day, and like I don't know why it maybe got posted, but this is crazy. This is a Tehran Terrier question right here. Actually, no, I don't even want to. I don't want to even bring it to him because I want this thing to be there. I don't want it to get fixed. If they find it, they find it. But this needs to be just a random thing on the internet. Oh no!
Get to work, big game, James.
We get stripped down. Crazy though.
What a defensive end group we had this year. We had Bain, Mesidor, and Romello Height. Man, we were terrorizing teams.
Dude, that's
Anyways,
wild.
I was looking that up because I wanted to pull a comp to Romello Height. They list him at 6'5", 220 on that. He's definitely not that. I think right now they're putting him at 6'3", 235 on ESPN. He's probably closer, I'd say, down those 6'3", 225, if I had to guess. But that's, I think, a pretty good comp from Juan Manuel in the comments to Booker Pickett, that he could be a Romello Height type, gain some weight, right, get stronger, and just get more physically mature. So Romello Height, I believe, was the class of 2019. Was that right? Or yeah, he was a class of 2019, I think, maybe 2020. But this guy's been in college forever. So what you're seeing now as a 23, 24-year-old is not what he was when he was Booker Pickett's age. But despite having, I don't think his first 2 years he had any sacks. He had
and even do you remember when Miami was recruiting him when he left USC. Auburn? Yet what?
It was Auburn, USC.
when he left
Tech.
USC. Yeah,
Texas
yeah. But
Tech,
when
yeah.
and he ended up at Georgia Tech, remember, this is when we first started doing the Daily Show, and we were even like, we'll see. Like, he hasn't done much. We'll take him, but like the whole thing with the recruitment was weird and all
We
that.
were selling it. The fans were the ones going crazy on us. They're like, "You idiots! What the hell are you talking about Romello Height for?" I thought he could help us. I didn't think he'd be.
Well, we were just so bad. I mean, we were so bad at the time. Still, like, we needed all the bodies.
You need waves of these guys. So it wasn't like I was in favor of it, but nowhere in the world did I think he'd be a guy like he was this year, getting 10 sacks for a legitimate top 10 team. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Well paid, first round manager right there.
Well paid. He's going to get drafted probably day 2. So I like that as a potential comp for Booker Pickett down the road.
Hold on a second. Juan Manuel, man, I gotta say, you're kind of going back and forth on this. Juan Manuel, the last couple of weeks, have been telling me kids shouldn't go to Texas Tech. It's just all about the money. And now he says that Romello Height blew up at Texas Tech. So I don't know, man. Maybe he made the right decision going there.
Yeah. He definitely made the right decision. I think he's going to get paid pretty good.
Why I think that's why, all jokes aside, I've been kind of a fan of what Texas Tech's done, D, because when we were looking at the portal stuff that we were doing last year, like, man, these are some good they are throwing money around, but these are some really good, it seems like, evaluations on, like, it's one thing to throw money around, but can we give credit to people who are putting money into the right players? I think that deserves to be. So they did that last year. We'll see what happens.
LSU spent a ton of money on defensive ends too, and they weren't as good as what Texas Tech had.
Well, and we know what LSU did this year too. Even going and getting a Steph Green from Clemson that probably cost more than what people realize. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, Booker Pickett, maybe even more fluid than tight. High was a little tight, but very explosive. But I could see him having that impact. Bottom line is, if you can get after the passer, you're going to have a role. He just needs to keep getting bigger and stronger and more mature physically, is the story with Booker Pickett. But someone we're watching. Another guy I want to talk about, Cole McConaughey out of Mobile, Alabama. We talked about it when he first came on the scene. He was playing ahead of Lightfoot. He was playing different bodies, right? Thicker with McConaughey, more of a base end. But he was playing ahead of Lightfoot. He was playing ahead of Pickett. I mean, he was the guy that got on the field first in this highly touted defensive line class. Ahead of Justin Scott, really ahead. I mean, not the same position, but again, talk about all those highly touted freshmen from the class of 2024 on the defensive line. The one that got on the field the earliest and best was McConaughey. Now he got hurt, has gotten hurt since then, and has just not broken through due to variety of factors. I think injury being the biggest factor, but he's somebody with his motor, with his size, now more physically mature. You want him to get healthy, because if he can be healthy for spring, and I know nothing about where he's at there. I assume he's fine. I hope he is. He could be somebody, you hadn't thought about for a couple of years, and you're like, oh man, Cole McConaughey's playing snaps and really helping us and playing physical there on the edge.
Yeah, big fan of his. I mean, we had him on the show a couple of years ago when he first committed. Was super productive, right, D? And I think part of what maybe the injury stuff was, I mean, I've seen him on campus the last few months, and he's big. He put on a lot of weight in a quick amount of time. And I think sometimes, as we talked about, not everyone can adjust right away in terms of how their body's moving with it and things of that nature. So I think you can kind of look at this last year as a redshirt year, or was a redshirt year with the injury. And it's a make or break year for him, I would say, at Miami. That's just how these things go with the clock being what it is. But that's why I've mentioned him a few times this offseason as someone that, okay, number one, the staff wants him to stay around because he stayed here. Number two, he's not giving up after a tough year with dealing with injuries and not being able to play. And number three, you're missing what you're missing, and he brings you a different body type, which is the real thing. We're talking a lot about these guys who have speed to power and who have freakish twitch. I don't know that McConaughey's that, but when you go back and you look at him playing fourth down snaps against Louisville a couple years ago as a freshman in short yardage situations, that should show you that's the sort of player he is.
Another guy who was very productive in high school. He really blew up as a senior, and then Phillip Rivers future NFL quarterback. At that time, he was just a high school coach.
Oh, future NFL head coach, it looks like, too.
Yeah. He was the one that came and recommended McConaughey to his buddy Coach Stroud, who's part of Miami's support, larger staff, because Stroud coached Rivers at NC State. So there's a relationship there. So Rivers, when he was coaching high school ball in Alabama, said, hey, this guy McConaughey is going to Louisville. You guys could probably use him. So that's how McConaughey ended up at University of Miami. I'm not using this as a comp necessarily, because and people are going to say just talk about white guys, but Caden Curry from Ohio State is someone that it was a slow burn to get to where he was. But then by the time he was a senior, you're talking about a guy with, what do you have? 11 sacks. So some of these guys develop different than others, even at these big time schools. So McConaughey is someone I think if he sticks with the program, continues to get coached by JT, get healthy, get his body right, his time will come. Similar with Booker Pickett. These guys just need to stick with the program, keep getting bigger, keep improving. Mesidor was not a straight shot to the first round, right? There was a lot of twists and turns in development, ultimately becoming that first round player. I'm looking forward to seeing how these two develop. Before we turn the page to the younger guys, want to shout out my friends at KashKick, KashKick, one of the top apps in America. Where is that KashKick app right there? What happened on our old KashKick website? All right, well, I'll find it. I'll find a different one. KashKick, KashKick. Don't go to the website and use the old-fashioned just desktop. You can go to the App Store. Just write KashKick, KashKick. Oh, here we go. Look
I
at
got
this
it for you if you need.
Yeah, I got a nice graphic here. Look at this nice graphic. The login screen. Look at this. Look at that guy. Look at that little ninja with the money. I like that. So you got a ninja sitting on a cliff, looking at beautiful mountains, playing with his KashKick app. And look at that cash just popping out. Go to the App Store. Again, sign up. 4.5 plus average rating, 1.5 million downloads. One of the biggest apps in the country. KashKick. Download today. While you're playing games, doing surveys, browsing the internet, you get money directly to your PayPal as KashKick, KashKick in the App Store. And want to do one more shout out to my guy, the Orchid Man, ORCHID Man, Florida.com. We'll be talking to his close buddy, JT Arteaga, here in a little bit. But the Orchid Man, one of South Florida's top landscape artisans. I'm sure I'll see him tomorrow at the light. 786-271-0332, or you can go to the website, ORCHIDmanflorida.com to book your appointment. 10% off your first service for a limited time only. Residential, big commercial properties. He does it all. His team, those trucks are all over South Florida. You see those OM trucks. Once you hear the name Orchid Man, just keep an eye out for those big Orchid Man trucks, those OM logos, making sure he does the dirty work for you that you don't want to think about. Irrigation, tree stump grinding, hurricane prep, sprinkler repair, you name it, they do it at ORCHIDmanflorida.com. All right, P, let's talk about some of these young guys here as we keep this thing rocking and rolling.
I'll start with Ashari Charles. He's someone
Your
that
guy.
I've been bullish on here, and man, talk about you got him coming in from Venice. Great connection here with him and Damon Wilson. That should be a nice kind of mentorship, I would imagine. But he's someone that, and I'll pull up his high school stuff here. Twitch, speed to power. I mean, he's already a 240 plus, 245 sort of guy. So the weight, I don't think, is something that we should be concerned about. And I've heard he's just attacking these workouts real well, man. I heard he's someone that could be an early sort of spring impact guy. There's so many players at this position that I'm not going to say, hey, this guy, he could get 3-4 sacks this season. I don't know yet, but he could be one of those names in spring that we're kind of talking about every other day, because I think he's that sort of talent.
Yes, he could pull up his senior highlights, because his senior year, he was just unreal for Venice. Kind of like Booker Pickett and Marquise Lightfoot, in that those guys, you throw Hayden Lowe into the same boat. When they went to the All-Star games, their rankings rose, because when you saw them against some of the top tackles in the country, they were just kicking their butts. So Ashari Charles is somebody, again, Lightfoot earned his 5-star at the what was then the Army All-America game. Booker Pickett became a top 100 player at the Under Armour game. Ashari Charles goes to the Navy All-America game, which is the former Army All-America game, and becomes a top 100 player. He was already a 4-star, but now he is the number 79 player nationally, number 10 edge in the country, number 10 player in South Florida. And that was earned just, again, by whooping the butts of the best high school offensive tackles in the country. Did the same thing at Venice. They play real good competition, and he took care of that. 6'2", 229. I believe that's verified. They probably measured him and weighed him at the Army game. But this is a guy with just tremendous lower body explosion. He's one of these power clean monsters that you see in the weight room and at functional lifts. That's what he does. Cristobal said he's the kind of guy that can jump out the pool with the inside the water. Look at this guy, man. Unbelievable burst off
lower
the ball.
Body explosiveness. That's a good call there by Coach.
He plays low. He's got speed. He's not as big as Ruben Bain, right? Ruben Bain was 250 at this age, probably ended up being a 275. This guy's going to be more in that 235, 240. Maybe top out of like a 245 type of guy, but plays with tremendous power. As you can see, just knocks the tackle into the quarterback, which I think that's the similarity to like a Bain, is the power, albeit with much less weight. Is again just pushing guys into the quarterback. You know what he kind of reminds me of, Pete? The Seattle Seahawks. They get guys like this. Back in the day, it was like a Cliff Averill, who was just nasty out off the edge from Purdue. I think he was originally from the state of Florida. Now they got Hall from Auburn.
Derek Hall, yeah.
They just get guys at this size who can really
too.
get off the ball and really, exactly. They're just this size, tough and powerful for their size. It can really get off the ball and get after the quarterback. That's what
his bend is really good. And again, has been a guy that Jason Taylor from day one was all about. So, yeah, no, this is, and I mean, you see him just like, look at him, right? Look at him fluidly. It's not like some of these guys who are twitched up. They're a little stiff, right? Because they're so tightly wound up. That doesn't look like it's the case with him.
No, not at all. And I think the fact that he went to the Army game and dominated, again, let's say compare him to Booker Pickett, and I keep calling it the Army game. It's a Navy game. I don't know how that happened. How do you switch from Army to Navy in terms of your advertisers? You think it'd be the same bucket of money when it comes to advertising, but who knows? But anyways, this is different to me than Lightfoot and Pickett, because those guys really won with speed at that game. They were just too quick for everybody. Whereas Ashari Charles was knocking guys back. I think he weighs about probably 10, 15 pounds more than those guys, not as tall. So there you see again the power. I think that power is the most important thing to playing early. That's why Bain was able to play early at the level he did. I think Charles will be able to play earlier than Lightfoot and Pickett because of some of the stuff we're looking at here in these highlights.
Yeah, and then again, though, look at him chase.
Good motor, good program. By the way, for those who don't know, so you see these green helmets, these green uniforms. This is Venice. This is on the west coast of Florida, one of the traditional best programs in Florida. And Damon Wilson, the defensive end Miami is bringing in from Missouri, is actually from this same high school, Venice High School. He knows Ashari Charles. Cool dynamic, Pete. Wilson from Venice High School as the senior, who's going to hopefully have a good year, go to the NFL. Ashari Charles, the incoming freshman. They have a relationship, I believe, just based on like Instagram comments and stuff. So he'll be able to be a mentor to him. We talked about it with the offensive side. Cooper Barkate from Mission Viejo, California, different high school, but same area as Vance Spafford. Barkate, the senior, Spafford, the freshman coming in. So I think you'll see, again, I don't know if this is the case. I just know they know each other. Maybe you'll see some mentorship going on with a guy like a Damon Wilson and Ashari Charles, just like you might see with a Barkate and a Spafford.
I said that at the beginning of the segment.
Did you really? You said the Spafford Barkate thing too?
Well, I said the mentorship thing with.
I expanded it with that nice Cooper Barkate Spafford example. How about that?
It's a good one. That's a nice tidbit there. It seemed like you didn't hear me say the first one.
Which man, but anyways, so now they know. Now if he's not a mentor to Ashari Charles when this is all said and done, there's a problem. So we said it about 3 times on this show.
Yeah.
Almighty Kane says, Ashari Charles reminds me of that dude who played for Virginia Tech in the 1990s. Can't remember his name. Corey Moore, I think is the name you're looking for. Just small, explosive player. And you're seeing those kind of guys. Like, they're not 6'5", 260, but are they powerful? Can they get under guys? Do they play hard? And, of course, do they have the first step to get by tackles and get in the backfield? That's what you're looking for. And look, Miami didn't bring in the Hayden Low bodies this year at defensive end. It was really about explosiveness and getting to the quarterback. And I think Corey Heatherman clearly is valuing that and saying, look, I don't need a guy that's going to be two-gapping on the edge and just being a bully. I need somebody who's going to be able to get in the backfield and make plays. And that's why you see Charles in his first class as defensive coordinator. And then this next guy, Pete, another Florida guy from Lake Nona, beautiful Lake Nona, as we learned in the comments, pristine Lake Nona in Orlando, Florida, quickly becoming a Miami Pipeline, Orlando, Florida. And that is DeAnthony Lafayette, former LSU commit that Miami was able to flip, which if you compare him to Charles, I would say Charles has more power. You know, Charles more likely, neither guy is huge. Charles more likely to get under players and push them back, whereas Lafayette, lateral quickness, guy who played running back in high school. I think his lateral quickness and just ability to get to the passer is pretty unique.
Yeah, he's not as and that I always say that picture at the beginning of the huddle never gives him is never very good look on it. Makes him look shorter than he is. But yeah, he's not as I don't think powerful or sturdy as Charles right now. But he just Euro stepped his way to the quarterback there. Like that's not, I have to play that back, and I've seen that play a million times. But that side to side movement, as we'll see, as we've talked about, he played running back as well. His special 20 sacks, as you see here again, led the country in 7A ball in sacks. And that's the production. Oh, my God. Look at that.
He had a beat already, and he beat him twice for good measure.
Yeah, well, because the guard came over to help. So to me, it's a different sort of profile than Charles in that respect. Now, if some of these linemen that have been playing for a couple of years can get their hands on him, we'll see what happens there. But can they get their hands on him? That's the question. So,
interception for touchdown here.
Yeah, he's just, that looked like the JT Austin kid we saw earlier on.
Yeah, but this guy I think is even more athletic. I mean, this guy to me,
sure, yeah.
You know who he reminds me of, Pete? And he's not as tall. He's not as tall as the player I'm about to say, but I've been watching this guy, just kind of doing my draft prep because I like to watch the draft prospects this time of year. David Bailey from Stanford, again, a little taller, but he did this to everybody. This is all he did. He didn't like knock back a soul. Like he Ruben Bain, all his knockback. Bailey didn't knock back a soul. He didn't even try to run, whatever. What he did was this, man. Man, how many touchdowns is Anthony Lafayette?
That was a handoff, yeah.
Yeah, that was him playing running back. But this is what he did. Just Euro-stepping offensive tackles, just beating guys with speed and quickness, untouched, and then getting sacks. He was one of the most productive. I think he led the nation in sacks. Did he, Bailey, or he was close to it?
Yeah, well, I think, yeah. It was, yeah, pretty sure he did, yeah.
R. Mason Thomas is another guy who's probably closer height-wise to DeAnthony Lafayette, who's going to be drafted probably early day two, coming out of Cardinal Gibbons in Broward County. That went to Oklahoma. Oklahoma was big in the DeAnthony Lafayette recruitment. But those guys that can win with just pure athleticism, they not only get drafted high, but they make a huge impact at the college level. I think that's what you see with Lafayette, whereas Charles, more power to his game.
Here he is again at running back.
Look at the balance,
man. Look at that balance. That's sick.
Juan Manuel asking if he can play linebacker. He does play some middle linebacker in these highlights, but again, when you look where R. Mason Thomas is going to get drafted, look at where David Bailey is going to get drafted. And they really don't do anything except for what we're looking at right here. That this particular skill set is just so valuable that it's hard to, maybe his body is more of an every down linebacker, but if he's giving you just strictly pass rush snaps, and this is the production he's going to
looks like a madman too. You see, whenever when he think he plays, he's a couple plays ago, he ran 15 yards to go see another teammate. Then he was just hitting his helmet after a play. I mean, he looks like how you want him wired as a pass rusher, D.
Is he replacing SJ Fatuli as our fullback? I mean, this guy is running the ball out here at tailback.
Hey, are we moving SJ from fullback, D?
I think SJ will be our backup center this year.
Why not both?
Yeah, but no, I think he'll play that position again. But he might have some competition now with this guy, and this guy can carry the ball. I don't know if SJ is doing 60-yard touchdowns in 7A at Florida. This guy's just a big-time athlete. Honestly, here he goes. This is what I was talking about, Manuel. You see him playing middle linebacker here. Does a nice job, but I just think the impact, look, that was a 3-yard loss, but these sacks are drive killers, and he can deliver these. Look at that Euro. Unbelievable. This guy, I haven't seen these senior highlights yet. This is a movie right here.
12 minutes, by the way.
Hey. Last guy to come out of this high school that I recall, Zane Durant, defensive tackle, but undersized for that particular position, went to Penn State. Now he's going to get drafted, was very productive for Penn State. This guy's an edge guy, so a different spot, but I could see similar level of productivity despite not being the picture-perfect measurable guy. The talent is just too strong, and the athleticism is just too unique.
D. Huck's asking if he's like the dude from Virginia Tech, Antoine Power Ryland. Not a bad comparison.
No, but I mean, again, I think this guy's more athletic.
I think he has more upside than that, yeah.
So I'm looking at Mason Thomas's 247 because this is someone we recruited out of high school. Cardinal Gibbons. I think if Mario was here earlier, we get this guy. He played with Ahmad Moten, but Mario got here. He was already kind of on his way to Oklahoma. Goes to Oklahoma, is now going to get drafted probably second round. They had him at 6'2", 215 coming out. So Lafayette's thicker, maybe coming out. So
I got to pull this comment up from Canes Cats Heat, which it seemed a little familiar, but it's not true. They also had Josiah Pierre, who was committed to us for agents and flipped to UF. So that was Mount Dora, not Lake Nona. Kind of sounds the same, but that was Mount Dora.
Mount Dora, I think, a smaller school. Lake Nona, a bigger school. Yeah. Nice area, but bigger school from what I understand. Yeah. And produces more real players. So, yeah, man, excited about Lafayette. Excited about this defensive end. Are we missing anybody, Pete? I know there's some guys that are kind of both ends and tackles. I'm going to put Logan Nagel with the tackles.
We got to save some of these guys for D tackle. I think pretty much everyone else is D tackle though. I'm kind of going through my roster from last year to make sure we're not missing any of the returning guys. No, I think we got everyone there, D.
Our guy Josh Sarnoff, the impresario at Scrap City. People love that. People were asking for the Scrap City read right now. I think they just like seeing the Instagram for Scrap City. Here, we'll give you a free one while you give that comment, because that Scrap City Instagram's got people going crazy. So the impresario of Scrap City, Josh Sarnoff, Pompano Beach, Delray Beach locations, scrap-city.com, says, Pete, that golf course at Lake Nona is fire. Have you been to that golf course, Pete? You were talking about.
No, I haven't. It's a country club. I think I know someone who actually is a member up there, but I gotta pull a string or two. But I've heard great things. Yes.
There's my guy Josh. Look at that Scrap City ad. By the way, look at that. I don't know if this is authentic or if this is AI. I know he does authentic ones. The one on the far left and the far right look very similar. Maybe they're sisters, but hard work deserves a reward. 954-330-9472. Speak to their team, Pompano Beach, Delray Beach. Bring in your scrap metal, whether it's just cleaning your house. Maybe you're somebody who your small business generates a lot of scrap metal. You work construction, you're an electrician, you're a plumber, you're dealing with scrap metal, or if you're dealing with industrial size, Scrap City, Pompano Beach, Delray, they will take care of you. They can even do on-site pickups. So check in with Scrap City FL on Instagram, scrap-city.com on the website. Scrap for scratch from D Hucks.
D, man, you know how you said that? You know how you said Valentine's just really creeps up on you every year?
Yeah.
Listen, if you don't want to make a reservation at you know at a packed restaurant, you're gonna do something at home. Lomelo's Meat Market. Get the good stuff for the occasion. Lomelos.com. If you're local, head down to Lomelo's 9810 South Dixie Highway. You get the best, not only Wagyu beef, but prime as well. Any cut that you're looking for available there in store. And then nationwide shipping. Use promo code CIS10 for 10% off your order. And then mention CanesInSight in the store for your discount as well. Ask for the owner, George. He will take care of you. Lomelos.com.
All right, last one from me before we get out of here. We got to shout out our friends at the Miami Hurricane Team Store. We'll be at the light tomorrow.
We're not actually getting out of here, D. We're not getting out of here.
All these ads. We're not done.
Yeah.
JD Arteaga interview on the other side of the break. So make sure that is clear. Stick around. JD Arteaga interview on the other side of the break. But you're going out there. If you're buying Valentine's Day gifts, they'll take care of you there at the Miami Hurricane Team Store. Or if you just want to get baseball gear, get ready for the season, which starts tomorrow against Lehigh there at the light. I'll be there. A ton of people will be there. It's going to be a fun time. Go to MiamiHGS.com or the store right across the street from the University of Miami. Promo code INSIGHT20 will get you 20% off your first item. That is promo code INSIGHT20 for 20% off. Pete, you ready with Coach?
Yep.
All right, here's my interview with Coach JD Arteaga of your Miami Hurricanes baseball team.
And guys, audio, D, as you said, maybe a little bit lower on JD than you. So we're going to work on that moving forward. We'll get that corrected. So I know we had some comments about that last time, but should be still good to go here. JD Arteaga with D Money.
To the JT Arteaga Show, brought to you by Sala Astorita and Cox. We are here with the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, Coach JD Arteaga. Coach, you've done this for a while now. Player, coach, you still get that excitement before opening day?
Absolutely, man. If you don't, then you're in the wrong business. So anytime it's opening day, it's an exciting time. And I know what we got. We're excited about it. I can't wait for the fans to really see the product that we have.
You got the helmet behind me. Thank you for that. We're fired up. We're representing the team here. But big announcement this week talking about the weekend rotation. Two of those guys we saw last year with Siskar and Darius starting, several games. But another guy from that same recruiting class, right, a rising sophomore, Lachi Coletta, he's starting on Saturday. What have you seen from his development? It's funny. He was the one that you heard the most about in high school of these three, but now starting the latest, but the progression's been there. So what are you seeing from him?
Last year to start the season, Siskar is the one that had a role in the bullpen and he knew he was going to pitch a lot and stuff. And I had to sit down with Darius and Carrera and really ask him to be patient and continue to develop and get better. And, their opportunity is going to come. And Tate's opportunity came first. He did a nice job for us last year, but all in all, this last summer through this fall and spring, I mean, Correa's been just amazing. His development and how much he's improved as a pitcher and as a person, and focus and maturity, and it just shows, And as you know, we got I think a really good lineup, but he's dominated those guys and kept them in check. And really, all I needed to see was that first inning of Saturday night when it got off to a kind of a slow start and a couple of guys on, nobody out, and the ability to minimize, and that's where maturity is starting to show. I've seen him throw plenty of good innings. I've seen really bad innings. I was looking for that in between, kind of minimize damage. And after that first inning, in my mind, he was our Saturday starter. So it was good to see him go the next 4 innings clean and pitch well. So he's earned a spot there.
I want to ask you about velocity because I noticed that when we go to these scrimmages before the season, you don't have the velocity up on the scoreboard. You got everything else up, right? A guy like Lachi, who that was kind of what was associated with him at an early age. Obviously, the pitching development, there was a lot for all these guys, and everybody's focus is on the velocity. Just you as someone who it's on your mind because it's not on the scoreboard. Like, does velocity and all that hype kind of disrupt the development of pitchers sometimes?
It gets in the way. So it definitely does when they kind of, look at our pitching and our level of importance, self-awareness is first. That's the base of our pitching philosophy here, is understanding who you are and what you can and cannot do. And just because your favorite pitcher is someone that's 6'7" throwing 98 miles an hour doesn't mean that that's what you have to do to be successful. So, and velocity is at the end. Velocity allows you to get away with mistakes, but pitchability is still going to get outs. Some of the metrics that you do see on the board are kind of a tell sign of mechanical issues. So that's why we have those up, and we can see in real time and what certain guys are doing and the angles that the ball's spinning, especially breaking balls and stuff like that. But velocity, it's there more for the fans on game days, but for us, it's not end all tell all. And the guys that are too caught up in that are usually the guys that their development kind of is a little slower than others.
But obviously, you're developing guys with the three. Again, these are homegrown guys from last year's class starting this weekend. But the schedule, I looked at, I couldn't believe it. I had to check it twice. So you play 6 games next week. You got Sunday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then a doubleheader on Saturday. Is that right? Just from a pitching standpoint and making sure that you have enough arms, how are you going to approach that week?
Well, we stretched out, I think, 7 guys throughout normally we kind of start tapering down after, maybe the second week of spring inter squads. This year we stretched out, I think, 6 or 7 guys all throughout. So understanding that, maybe not all guys are going to start, obviously, but a situation where a guy comes in the 6th inning, he can finish those 6, 7, 8, 9 and save the bullpen, because we got to, strategy is going to come into play a little bit, especially early on with the amount of games and the two guys that we have out that won't be back till March. So we're just trying to figure out and kind of work our way through that right now.
Now, you might think what these guys are, but obviously, as you know, once the real action starts, you get a much different evaluation of them. Is this 6-day stretch and really the schedule, especially with some guys out, an opportunity to learn more about these guys and who can help you down the stretch?
Absolutely. And early on, the opportunities to pitch and play are usually greater early than they are late. As you go on later, and the starting pitching is kind of stretched down. They can go 100 pitches and they can get their, hopefully 6, 7 strong innings. Then you go to your back end guys. So the opportunities are limited. But early on, it's just a chance to, we go in, like you said, we think we know what we have, but until the lights come on, I've seen a lot of guys transform from, in both directions, right? Not be a practice player. Once the lights come on, they're a different player, and vice versa. So it's always a learning time of the season and to kind of figure out who we are. We're not going to win a national championship or lose one early on, but we'll find out really quick what we need to improve on and where our strengths and weaknesses are.
One thing I've seen just from whether it's T-ball or the New York Yankees, a lot of people are focused on the shortstop position. Who's playing shortstop, right, is always kind of a point of discussion. I remember last year on the CanesInSight message boards, we have a very active baseball forum. When you decided to start Ogden at shortstop, a lot of people were saying, what's he doing? Ogden has not played that position a lot at the college level, ends up having a great year. Now, with Van Shayen stepping in there at shortstop and Jake moving to second, obviously going to raise some eyebrows just because of the level of play that Jake had last year. People haven't seen Vance as much coming from SCF State. So just talk about your decision there and what went into it.
I'll be honest, they're both really close when you talk about in the shortstop position. I think Vance is going to make, 4 or 5 plays that Ogden might not make. At the same time, he might make a couple of routine errors that Ogden wouldn't make. So it's very even there at shortstop. I think Ogden just kind of at second base is a much better, just as throwing motion, shorter arm angle, turning double plays, things like that. He's better over on that side. So we had a minor incident yesterday in practice. So the shortstop position is right now a question on Friday, tomorrow night. So Ogden will be in the lineup. Shayen is kind of a question mark right now, day to day, but nothing serious. We'll see what happens. If we're playing today, he probably wouldn't be playing. We're hoping an extra 24 hours will be fine. So the fans still might see Ogden at shortstop tomorrow, and throughout the season, we'll see what happens. Again, that this first 2-3 weeks is not just about the pitching and the rotation and the bullpen. It's about the lineup as well. You get some guys that get opportunities early, and you see guys that have a good game, and the next game they're not in the lineup. You just gotta have to figure out, give opportunities and give guys chances to win and lose jobs and stuff like that. So, but I just think we're really solid up the middle, and we're close at shortstop. I just think Ogden was that much better at second base.
We talked a lot about the offensive improvement, right, with all the guys you brought in, but really the defense, as I look at it, we talk about having 2 ACC caliber shortstops. One might be playing second base. You have 3 catchers now that are high quality guys, both sides, offense and defense. And you got two center fielders that can go with Torres, all he does, and Peralta. We saw him play out there. So like up the middle and just in general, it seems like your defense, we talk so much about the offense. Do you think your defense has improved?
It has. And look, there is a lineup that has Max Galvin as our DH, that would put Peralta in left field. Now, in essence, you got, two center fielders out there, and D-Will has gotten really, really good defensively and arm strength, and he can really run, and he's got a much better right field. So it's a much stronger defensive outfield. Again, not every lineup, but there is a lineup that looks that way. And then behind the plate, I think, just arm strength wise and throwing, we throw a lot better back there. And just really strong with the middle, which again, it's impossible to have good pitching without good defense. Unless you're going to strike everybody out, you need good defense. And not just, I'm a big believer in, fielding percentage does not make you a good defensive team. You got to be able to take runs away and take hits away and stuff like that. And then play clean where you're not giving extra 90s on plays that are not errors, but runners advancing extra 90 feet, overthrowing a cutoff guy and things like that don't come out in the scorebook. The scoreboard looks great at the end with no errors, but we gave 3 or 4 extra bases that adds up to runs later on in the game.
You got two lefty pitchers kind of running the show on that side with you, obviously, and Coach Gutierrez. 3 lefty freshmen that have shown flashes. I know people excited between Alonzo Drummond, Jack Durso, and Sebastian Santos Olsen. So we'll just that group, just talk about what they bring to the table and if we could possibly see them this season playing a role.
Santos is going to start one of the weekday games this week, right? Either Tuesday or Wednesday. We're going to figure out what's a better matchup. But his future, all 3 guys, their future is bright. I think Santos might be the first guy we see getting some starts. But those other guys in the bullpen are going to be, high leverage left-handed pitchers. Dorn had a really good spring for us. He's one of those guys that we extended throughout the last week. So he might, come out and get some longer appearances and, maybe be a setup guy at times. And so it's some depth that we have from the left-handed side, which we have not had in a while. But those 3 freshmen are definitely, big parts of our freshman class. And they're going to see some important innings this year and moving on to the future. A lot of some starts in there as well.
You mentioned the midweek. That was probably one of the biggest changes from your first season to your second season, right? The improvement in those midweek games. What's the key to continuing to improve there and making sure that you're able to take care of business with some really good teams that you end up playing midweek?
We do, and look, that's the difference. Midweeks to me are the difference of getting to a regional or not, being a top 16 seed or not, or being a national seed or not. Those games for us, it's 12 games that are tougher than most. It's we're not in Virginia or North Carolina, where the mid majors here in the state of Florida are really good teams, and a lot of those kids grew up wanting to come to Miami or Florida State, and feel like they got something to prove. And our guys, sometimes we tend to look ahead as we got the Carolinas coming into Virginia, and we overlook some of these teams. So those are tough games. Those are really tough games, and as much as we kind of preach and harp on how important they are, it's always a struggle sometimes to get the team up and excited to play. But they're important. They're important, and it starts with on the mountain pitching. I think that's one thing we had last year. We had some veteran starters in those midweek roles. They gave us some good innings, and at the end of the year, we're obviously made like weekend starters for us. But it's just we got to show up. We got to show up and play, because if we don't against those teams, they'll hand it to you.
You're playing, obviously, this is something that's not new at University of Miami. A lot of cold weather teams coming down in February, where it's the only place they can play. What's different about those teams? Obviously, the way that they practice in the winter is different than the way you guys practice, just because of geography. Is there anything different about those teams when you play them and just the way they play and kind of the way they attack?
I mean, just you can see there. I mean, everyone's excited for the season opening up. But think about being in a gym for the last month and a half, and there's a little different type of excitement for those kids coming out and being outside and in the sun and the warm weather and stuff like that. So it always amazes me that they don't take a ground ball on a regular, clay grass field, and they don't make any errors on the ground. But obviously, pop-ups are a challenge, especially the first couple of days. They haven't been outside, and those gym roofs aren't high enough to work on that. So they play hard. They're excited. They're usually well coached. They got a lot of time indoors, so they got all the fundamentally they're sound, because that's all they can do for the most part. So it's always, again, early in the year, not knowing what to expect, not knowing what your team's going to do. who you got coming in, and from year to year in college sports now, the teams change so drastically in roster and ability to play. So I'm just excited about it. Just excited about it. But every game's a challenge.
Just on the college baseball, you mentioned the game changing. Your focus obviously on your team executing and taking care of business, but just more broadly, it feels like college baseball, the excitement about it, the stadiums and all these things, it's just going to another level. Is that something, I know it's not your job, right? Your job is to make sure the team's ready to play, but is that something you pay attention to, either while it's recruiting or what? You were just like looking at, man, this sport's really getting higher exposure and elevating.
It is, man. And when you see, like schools like Southern Miss, that's like a special place to play, and it was unheard of, 10, 15 years ago, whatever you want to say. The ACC, and how good the Duke's gotten, and Virginia's been good for a while. But when we first got into the ACC, they just, those were 3 W's. There's not a weekend that you go into in conference now that you feel, okay, we got 3 W's. Let's give some guys a break, and you got to show up every day. And I think across the board, across the whole country, you're seeing more and more, whether it's mid majors or the traditionally bottom end teams of certain conferences, it just doesn't exist anymore. And I think lowering the rounds of the draft, and there's better talent going to school now. Schools are doing better jobs in developing players. So it's just as even of a playing field as it's ever been, and it's only getting more and more even.
Now you could fill up your lineup card with returning players, guys either here or they were starting at other schools and be good. But you do have freshman hitters that are pushing very, very hard. You've talked about the catcher, Alonso Alvarez. He's hit every time I've been out there, both sides of the plate, all sides of the – I mean, this guy's consistent, at least from what I've seen and everything I've heard. And then, a guy like Gabriel Milano over there at third base. I know he's dumped a few in the parking garage. Guys like that, where you have a good lineup that has a lot of veterans that you trust. How do you get those guys at bats?
That's the tough part. That's the toughest part. And again, with the parity, you don't have too many blowouts anymore. If you get those blowouts, and great, you get the opportunity to get those guys in there. But it's just those games are so far and few in between. It's tough. So the message to them, and that message was relayed back in November as soon as the fall ball was over, and how good and talented they are, but they're going to have to be patient just because of the situation that we're in. I mean, Dubovik hit a ball yesterday in a simulated game that it might be one of the hardest hit balls I've ever seen. It might have gone 10 feet off the ground and it got out of the ballpark in like half a second. Those are things, abilities that you can't teach. So they're patient, and again, stick around and develop, and our future is really, really bright here, along with Greenhouse and Watkins. I mean, it's really good. Really excited about it.
And just last thing, Coach, the personality of this team. I remember last year around this time, you talked a lot about the character of the team that you had added, and you hadn't played yet, right? So, but you just being around them in the workouts and everything, you're like, man, this team is tight. They had these aspects to their personality and their culture. And when adversity ended up hitting during the season, just kind of reflected what you had already seen during the offseason. Just this team, different, some guys back, some guys new, just the personality of this team that you've been able to observe.
So far, it's been great, and again, the first test, the first challenge will be tomorrow around, 2:00 when they arrive to the ballpark and the first lineup is up and they're not playing. Everyone starts in inter squads. So that's gonna be the first challenge. Again, I think we have a veteran enough group where they can kind of handle themselves. The more that's handled in the locker room amongst them, and the less the coaching staff is involved, the better. But at the same time, it's we got to step in sometimes. But it's to this point, they're really close. We just had the whole team over the house on Monday night, and we had a great time. And some terrible karaoke singers, but I'm glad they're good baseball players. But it seems we're kind of in the same area, same place of good makeup guys and good guys. Just they get along and love each other. So tomorrow, the first challenges will be upon us, and we'll see how we handle them. And we'll be working every day to overcome every obstacle that gets in our way. We're ready to overcome them.
What's your go-to on the karaoke?
I don't do it.
Wait, hold on. You're the leader of the team. You're supposed to lead from the front.
My wife does it. My wife, she loves it, and she does it. She's a karaoke.
All right, well, what's her song then?
As far as the upper level coaches, we had just the rookies come out and sing. So South Talamanca is also as bad as the players when it comes to singing. For the record.
Well, Coach, appreciate you. Listen, guys, if you're watching this, you got 3 games against Lehigh this weekend, and then 6 games next week, all at home. So you can catch one on your schedule. Definitely want to catch multiple. It's going to be a fun time. I'm jacked up. I know you are as well, Coach. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I can't wait to have the fans back in the ballpark. We get some nice fans for inner squad, but nothing like a packed Mark Light Stadium. So looking forward to seeing everybody back.
It's going to be a blast. Go Canes.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Great interview there by D Money with Canes baseball head coach JD Arteaga. Stay tuned because we are going to have, starting next week, Jay Lucas and the Miami basketball program. We're going to be having a lot more of that stuff. Coach Lucas will be on with us next week. We're going to get a player as well weekly, and then someone from the coaching staff as well. So we told you guys, we're all getting over the football season hangover, but we're going to bring you guys everything we've got here through the springtime and into the summer here on CanesInSight. And we're not done for the day, man. I'm going to go live this afternoon, 3 o'clock. I will be live from the Grape Ape in South Miami. Phenomenal restaurant. I'll be out later. We'll talk more about that spot when I'm live. But again, we're not going to stop. We got combine invites to talk about. 10 Canes invited to the combine, and a couple more who weren't invited who have a decent chance here to get drafted as well. So nonstop coverage here, as we got almost 1,000 live viewers here. CanesInSight Daily every day, 9 a.m. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Go Canes.